You're listening to Whoa! Potluck.
And hey, welcome to Books and Boba, a book club and podcast featuring books by Asian and Asian American authors. My name is Marvin Yue.
And I'm Rira Yu.
And we are here today for our July 2025 mid-month book news check-in, where we go over the latest Asian American book and publishing news. As always, Books and Boba is supported in part by our listeners. So if you've been enjoying our podcast and want to become a bigger part of the book club, head on over to patreon.com/booksandboba and become an official member. Our Patreon supporters gain access to our members-only Discord server where you can chat with us and fellow book club members in real time. And if you join us at the Honey Boba level, you also gain access to our monthly bonus podcast, Boba Chats, as well as the opportunity to help us pick a Patron's Choice book club pick once every quarter. But yeah, Rira, we are into the summer months. It looks like we have a relatively lighter publication announcements this month. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Hopefully that's just like kind of the summer slowdown. Is there a summer slowdown? Usually?
No.
Okay. So it could be ominous, but
it's not ominous. I mean, like every month it's going to be different. I mean, like our last mid-month episode, it was a pretty extensive list, so it varies. And as you guys know, like we pull the book deals from Publishers Weekly, and even though a lot of deals are announced every Thursday, like we only select the people who are of Asian descent, which is why sometimes the list is very short for mid-month episodes. But we do have a couple of news that we can talk about. I'm sure we have a lot to say on some of these topics, so stay tuned.
So yeah, let's get this mid-month check-in started by looking at the latest Asian American publishing announcements. Rira, can you tell us what our first deal is?
Yeah, so Bloomsbury preempted North American and open market rights to Miye Lee's psychological game show drama, Break Room. The book will be translated from Korean by Sandy Jooson Lee, and publication is scheduled for winter 2026. I'm trying to see right now if there's any more details about this book. All right, so I did find like the book jacket description, so it is out there. 8 unsuspecting people receive an invitation to participate in a mysterious new reality show called Break Room. But what starts as an opportunity to find fame is quickly revealed to be something far more unsettling when they learn how they were chosen. They were voted in by their coworkers as the people they'd least like to share a break room with. But there's another twist. Among them is an imposter, a mole planted by the show's producers, and the only way to win the prize money is to uncover the saboteur before time runs out. This is definitely something I can see in like a Korean reality show.
Yeah, I mean, we've also had American reality shows like this too, like The Mole and a lot of like those hidden identity ones. So I guess it's more like a more straightforward story about a reality TV show competition, which it is also refreshing. Not everything has to be a death game. I just watched Squid Game season 3, so it's like death game's on the mind. But you know,
I just like wonder what the contestants are like because their coworkers voted them in as someone they don't want to share a break room with. So I'm like, do they eat too loudly? Do they engage in like too much small talk? Are they just, do they bring food that is like really stinky? Like what is the reason why?
Yeah, I mean, it's a psychological thriller. So I imagine there's some like unsettling parts in it, but it also sounds like it might be like a satire or a send-off to like office culture as well, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, Korean office culture is there's just like levels of insanity to it because there's like the hierarchical order and seniority is like treated with much respect there. And the hubes, the people at the bottom of the totem pole, they're treated like absolute shit. No one can go home until their boss goes home. So sometimes they're like in the office till like midnight. So there's a lot of like toxic work environments in the Korean corporate industry over there. So yeah, who is the villain?
And this is just me projecting on what I would like to see this book talk about, which is like, what if everyone in this competition are actually the independent free thinkers of their offices and they're being sent here because they're like making waves, right? But more likely,
I just feel like Koreans overall are so petty. So I just feel like the people who are voted in on the show are like it's not even that big of a deal. But like, it's like, oh man, this person always drinks like the beverages in the refrigerator. You're supposed to sign in every single time you take a bottle out of the fridge, but they didn't sign in, so the inventory is messed up, blah 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 blah. So I don't know, it can go a lot of ways, but it would be really funny if it was like petty reasons why people got voted in.
I mean, when you're in office, petty reasons are pretty major, right? Like if there's someone just eating your lunch all the time, that's pretty, like, I would vote that person in for sure. It's been a while since I worked in the office, but you know, it could go a lot of ways, right? It can also be like this. It's a competition full of Dwight Schrutes, right? Full of like the pedantic enforcers that no one likes in their office as well. I guess that's more of an American thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out more when this book comes out. Although it looks like this book is already being released outside of North America pretty soon as well. So maybe we can do some reconnaissance and get a better sense on what the deal is. But yeah, sounds like an interesting premise. All right, our next book deal, Penguin Nancy Paulson Books bought in an exclusive submission, Gods and Comics by Kat Cho. This YA fantasy romance follows a teen girl whose viral webcomic accidentally brings back ancient Korean gods, including the charming Haemosu. Publication is slated for spring 2026.
This sounds like a classic Kat Cho novel. She is the author of Wicked Fox and Once Upon a K-Prom. She is like very well versed in Korean folklore, so I'm not surprised that she is bringing Korean gods into this. I am not familiar with Haemosu, but I do know that he is supposedly the father of Chumong, who is like this very big hero in like Korea's like Three Kingdoms era. So yeah, it's like one of those things where like mythology and like history are kind of like interwoven together to make our history seem like more epic. But yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what the Chinese Three Kingdoms romance is as well. It's like history with like fantastical elements to like to make real life people seem otherworldly and godly, right? I feel like this is like, I know Kat Cho's been on a tear on social media thanks to K-pop Demon Hunters, right? So I think it's serendipitous that she has like a book coming out too that kind of deals with, you know, Korean folklore.
Yeah, it's very much up her alley, and I'm like, yeah, like when I think about like Korean centric folklore that's a YA book, like she's one of the first people that pop up into my brain.
Yeah.
And she'll pop up again when we talk about K-pop Demon Hunters book drama later on in this episode. All right, next up, Peachtree has acquired world rights to Yuki's Special Delivery, written by Chloe Ito Ward and illustrated by debut illustrator Jiangshan Liu. In this picture book set on the Hawaiian island of Kauai, a delivery girl receives her first bicycle through upcycling while helping her neighbors at her grandfather's service station. Publication is planned for spring 2027. So is this bicycle upcycle? That would be really cool.
I think that's
made
what
from
it
like
is,
scrap
right?
pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, this sounds like a great book for kids to, you know, teach them, you know, about upcycling, which is something that I feel like is going to become more and more important as our environment continues to, you know, degrade. Not to bring us back to a bummer place, but teaching kids about you know, ecological conservation and preservation, probably good skills to learn for the future that they'll be entering, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like this bike is probably going to look real dope because I don't know, I'm just like thinking about like a bicycle that has just like been rebuilt from cool parts from like cars or whatever. So Yeah, and also like because of the title special delivery, I'm guessing that she uses her bike to deliver things. So it kind of reminds me of Kiki's delivery, but like not with like the magic part.
Yeah, definitely a book that at this point, all of these picture books are like, will I get these books for my kids? Probably. This one sounds really cute. So yeah, congrats to Chloe and Jiangshan on the book deal. All right, next up, Algonquin acquired world English rights to Bora Chung's The Pain Chasers, translated by Anton. The book is described as a speculative thriller set in a world where pain has been eradicated by Big Pharma, and a cult that believes suffering gives life meaning rises up against it. Publication is set for fall 2026, and this book is also part of a 2-book deal for Bora Chung with Algonquin.
Bora Chung is the author of Cursed Bunny, which was like a really critically acclaimed 2017 short story collection, which was also translated by Anton. And we've had Anton on our show before. So if you guys want to like hear more about like what translating a novel is like, I highly recommend listening to that episode. Pain being eradicated by Big Pharma. Interesting concept, because I feel like if that's the case, like how are they making money?
I mean, I imagine it's not permanent. You probably have to keep taking whatever this supplement or medication is. And it's an interesting concept, right? Because pain is what informs our body of danger. So what happens when there's no pain, right? What happens when there's nothing telling us that we're working too hard, or that this thing is dangerous, or that maybe we should slow down and chill out a little bit, right? Like, I feel like this being pain eradicated by Big Pharma, which invokes, capitalism, corporations, it really has like some nefarious connotations where like, who would really love people to not suffer pain? Companies want to exploit workers, right?
I don't know if you guys have read the book The Giver, but it's a society where they also don't have pain, and all of like the pain and like negative emotions and trauma, it's given to the receiver, like with each like generation. So yeah, I'm guessing it's kind of similar, because the characters in that book, it's implied that they're drugged to like not feel any pain, and they take the drug every day secretly.
Yeah. I mean,
like they don't know that it's being drugged. They think it's like vitamins or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that like on the surface sounds like a utopia, but you scratch a little deeper and it's like, no, this is definitely dystopic.
I would love to have unlimited pain medication though for my back and knees, because I'm so old and my bones hurt.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Sourcebooks Jabberwocky bought world rights to Monkey Dragon Rabbit, a wild Lunar New Year stampede, written by MeiLin Chan and illustrated by Kristen Chow. When a boy decides to open his Lunar New Year gift early, he inadvertently lets loose a group of magical Chinese zodiac animals into his house. Publication is set for fall 2026.
This sounds real cute.
I always love getting Lunar New Year themed books.
Yeah. One of the few like Chinese poems, or like, I guess it's a poem. I don't know if it's really a poem, but things I could recite is the entire zodiac, because it was ingrained in me by my grandmother back when I was a child. So if that's a skill that I could pass on to my kids with this book, that would be pretty awesome.
I know in Vietnamese culture, they do have like the year of the cat.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. But we don't have it in Korean culture. So Lunar New Year animals differ, I guess, in that regard, depending on where you're from. But for the most part, they're the same. Like, some people have sheep, some people have goat.
I mean, it's goat and sheep in English, because I know some people just like, I wonder if they think sheep is too feminine, so they want something more masculine. But in Chinese,
they're like totally different.
It's the same word. Just like, Year of the Rat is actually, you can also read as Year of the Mouse. I prefer mouse, because mice are more cute. Sheep it could be goat, it could be sheep, it could be ram. It could be a lot of different things. Yeah, so I think it's like only when you try to translate that to English where there's actual like connotations of different animals. Like, And in the original Chinese folktale about the animal race for the zodiac, there was a cat in it. At least the one that I read.
Yeah, but they didn't reach the finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess in the Vietnamese version,
in some versions, they like took off too early, and they didn't like start at the same time as everybody else. But that's a different version.
I'm looking it up, and it looks like in the Vietnamese zodiac, the cat takes the place of the rabbit, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. See, like we're not a monolith, you guys. Like even our holidays are like have their own variations.
Yeah, but back to this story. It sounds really charming. I would love to see like the just the image of like a bunch of zodiac animals running around a house. Sounds like it would be a lot of fun. So again, for my litmus test, yes, I would get this for my children. I actually already have a board book with all the zodiac animals that I'm to read to them when they're a little bit older. So it's excited to add to that collection as well. All right, our last book deal for this episode. Scholastic has bought Sylvia Liu's Friends Forever, a middle grade novel in which a pug and a French bulldog scheme to parent trap their owners to become besties again, even as the girls navigate new interests and friends in the 6th grade. Publication is set for fall 2026.
I love pugs, and like the fact that it's like 2 short snouted dogs, it just makes me so happy.
I'm more particular to a Frenchie. So we have one of each.
Very cute. We don't deserve dogs, but this sounds very cute because like what shenanigans do you pull as a dog to get your humans to be best friends and make up again?
Yeah, especially in the 6th grade when a lot of things are changing. You know, like I'm assuming, for a lot of people, it's the first year of middle school, and I'm sure those changes aren't easy for the dogs as well. Especially, just like their owners are friends, they probably were also friends, and now they don't get to see each other. And so I see a lot of potential for just a lot of cute shenanigans with these naive dogs.
All right, so that is a wrap on our book deals, and we're going to move on to book news. So if you guys have listened to our Boba Chat episode, I briefly mentioned this about the following news. So there's been some K-pop Demon Hunters book drama. This happened like earlier this month, like probably like in the first week of July. I remember I was like on Threads while this was happening, but unfortunately I did not take screenshots. So I do not remember the original culprit and like the original catalyst for this. But let's say one unnamed white author announced that they wanted to write their own K-pop Demon Hunters inspired book. Saying that they loved K-pop and, it's something that they're very interested in writing. And a Korean diaspora author politely asked them, maybe not. And chaos ensued. A lot of Korean diaspora authors jumped in on the conversation because there were a lot of white authors who were kind of like all kind of be like, well, stop gatekeeping. Like, we can write whatever we want as long as the research is done. And of course, we as Korean diaspora, like have thoughts about that. So I'm just going to go through some of the Threads posts that I've seen that has kind of gone viral commenting on this. So Susan Lee, who is the author of Romance Rivalry, she wrote on a Threads post, white women all up in arms when a Korean author asked they not jump on a bandwagon to write K-pop books just because they loved K-pop Demon Hunters. Let's have a discussion about lanes and who should be writing books about representation, sure. But how are you this hot about your right to write whatever you want and not heated about all the other rights at risk right now in the world? And if you're so obsessed with Korean shit, maybe respect Korean people / authors' point of views on this matter. This is the post that I saw originally. That was when I knew that something was happening on book Threads, and I was like, okay, let me go hunt down the culprit. But yeah, sorry, I didn't take screenshots, so I don't remember who the original person was. And then we have Kat Cho, who wrote If someone asks you to have respect and understanding of marginalized culture and your first reaction is to be defensive, then can I suggest that you take a beat and unpack why that was your reaction? Have you done something, however unintentional, to make you feel guilty in regards to that marginalized community? How can you quietly educate yourself to do better? Also, have you ever thought that being defensive in the replies would actually pull more attention to whatever you feel guilty about? And she followed up with saying, I know it seems like Korean people are being really loud about non-Koreans wanting to write a K-pop/Korean book right now. But let me introduce you to the word Han, the concept of an emotion that contains grief and resentment that is unfortunately rooted in Korean identity after the Japanese occupation tried to erase our culture and identity completely. So to see non-Korean people want to claim our stories while also pseudo-erasing us from it somehow triggers this feeling of Han. And while this was happening, I shared our list of Korean diaspora authors on our bookshop.org affiliate page, because that has been going on forever. And I was like, hey, just so you know, there are some Korean authors out there already writing about K-pop and Korean culture. So maybe pay more attention to those books than the potential books that some of these white authors want to write. So yeah, that happened.
I feel like it's frustrating that this keeps happening, but not surprising, right? Like we keep coming back to this discussion of who gets to tell what story, right? And us on this podcast, we've always been in favor of Asian authors writing about Asian stories and narratives, because I guess personally speaking myself, I'm not interested in reading an Asian American story written by a non-Asian American author. Those could be okay, but in the end, it's authorial intent is really important. At least when I read, I want to feel what this author is trying to invoke, what themes they're trying to explore, and for me, it's important for those to come from for lack of a better word, this word is loaded these days, but from an authentic place, right? And the thing is, I know that's how I approach books that we read. I'm sure that's not how everyone else approaches it, especially if you're reading from outside the culture, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people who don't think that deeply about what they read. They kind of just want the vibes, they want the themes, and that's how we end up with we've been telling these stories for as long as this podcast has been around, right? One of the first ever book news stories that we talked about was the Lost Continent, that whole debacle.
Oh yeah,
right.
I don't even remember the title. Wow, good memory.
So it's not it's the type of thing we'll see again and again, just because of the entrenched privilege that white authors and white people have enjoyed in this country, right? And the fact that I wonder how much of this is also being emboldened by the fact that diversity is becoming less of a buzzword, but less of a thing, right? Just the fact that I'm not interested in reading a book inspired by K-pop written in reaction to something becoming popular, right? And K-pop Demon Hunters, we talked about this a little in our Boba chat as well, but it's a really well-made movie. It's a terrible title.
It took 9 years to make, you guys. Yeah. It was a long-term project because they kept getting rejected because the studios didn't think that it would do well. I mean, it didn't even get a theatrical release. I mean, I think in a way, it makes sense because it's supposed to be a kids movie, and not a lot of parents are willing to bring their kids to theaters these days. Convenience trumps of going out to theaters. But I digress. But it is a movie that was made by Korean diasporans, made by Korean music producers who work with actual K-pop groups. It had Korean illustrators who are trained in Korean comic style. So I'm just there's a lot of authenticity that had to be checked at every level. Yeah, and I'm sure you have different touch points with it as well, because I'm not as entrenched in the K-pop world, but I really vibed with the film because it told a very, again, Asian American, Asian diaspora story through the visual language of
K-drama, K-pop, anime, right? Which are all kind of touch points as for me as well. And I know a lot of people love this film for the vibes, but I also know like at least the Asian Americans that I've talked to really vibe with like the themes of the story, right? Themes of like identity, of finding yourself, of accepting your flaws. And I'm just like not interested in reading someone who like saw that this is cool and decided I want to make that too from outside the community, right?
Yeah. Ellen O like brought up a really good point on Thread. She said us Kyopos, which means like diasporans. It's like the word for it actually means foreigner, but you know, diasporans. Us Kyopos have a hard enough time writing our own stories, and trying to write about our identity and culture comes with so much trauma that you non-Koreans can never fully understand, no matter how many K-dramas you watch. And I think if you are a white person and you want to write about K-pop, you can, but you cannot write in the perspective of a Korean person who is living in Korea and wanting to be a K-pop star. I just feel like there are just so many nuances you cannot capture no matter how much research you do. And, you know, I've heard other arguments, people saying like, well, K-pop appropriates, you know, Black culture and Indian culture. So like, why can't non-Korean people write about K-pop? And I'm like, well, that's a little bit different because it's like K-pop as like a music and visual medium. It works differently than the written medium. So I think a lot of this conversation has just kind of been derailed.
Well, also those are two separate arguments, right? Like you can say that maybe non-Koreans shouldn't write about Korean stories, while also, you know, agreeing that like, yeah, K-pop's origins did take a lot from like other cultures as well. Like those are
like Black culture. Yeah.
Two things can be true, right? These two things can be.
Yeah, two things can be true. And also like, I mean, like nowadays, a lot of music that is developed in the K-pop music industry is like, it's global. Like you have writers from Sweden, you have writers from South Africa, like everybody kind of like throws their tastes into a bowl and they churn it out to make it as appealing as possible to as many listeners out there.
And let's be honest, you know what other music takes a lot of inspiration from Black music? Like all American music, rock and roll, country, blues, jazz. Yeah, like, you know, it is an argument that like we should acknowledge the influence that that specifically Black American culture has had on global culture. But that doesn't somehow give you like the moral justification to also like, you know, like appropriate another a culture.
And I think like there is a way to write your K-pop Demon Hunters inspired book. Like, I mean, we've had boy bands and girl groups in American music. Like we've had like Destiny's Child, we've had Backstreet Boys. I feel like if you want to write a book about pop stars who, you know, are defeating evil in the night, like you can do that. Just like don't steal from other people's cultures without, you know, knowing where that culture is coming from.
Yeah, wasn't Anne Rice's Lestat even like a pop star at some point in his like long vampire career?
Dude, Anne Rice, wow, she's like popping up so often now on like book talk and book threads because of like how her stance on fan fiction was like very rigid. Like she would like go after fanfic writers and like put out cease and desist, and that's very different to like J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, because that's like a whole conversation that's happening, but that's not related to Asian American literature. So we are gonna move on. But what are your thoughts on K-pop Demon Hunters inspired books by non-Korean authors? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Either tell us on social media or tell us on Discord. So our next piece of news is about the Supreme Court ruling in favor of parents who wish to keep their children from books with LGBTQ plus people featured. So the 6-3 decision allows parents with religious objections to demand their children to not be instructed about gay and transgender themes. I know Marvin has been following this news a little bit more closely than me, so if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've been following it closely, but I know that it's a story that has been going on, which is why I've been keeping an eye on it. This is one of the main Supreme Court battles that We Need Diverse Books has been covering pretty closely. And it sucks. It sucks that while this case only pertains to LGBTQ, a parent's right to opt out of LGBTQ stories, because this is now in the books as the Supreme Court's decision, it opens the door to all sorts of other exclusions. Like another set of parents could bring a lawsuit saying, I don't want my kids to read anything about slavery. And because this is now precedent, that decision now has a fast track to, being upheld, which, there is definitely a slippery slope to this, especially in how everything is worded.
Yeah. So the ruling case was originally brought in by MeiLin parents who objected to a curriculum adopted in 2022 for pre-K through fifth grade by Montgomery County Public Schools, which is Maryland's largest school system. And the curriculum included storybooks like Pride Puppy, which is a book about a family whose puppy gets lost at a pride parade. Love Violet, about a girl who develops a crush on her female classmate. Born Ready, about a transgender boy. And Uncle Bobby's Wedding, which is about same-sex union. And parents went nuts. They were like, no. And I think it just comes down to them not wanting to acknowledge that queer people exist and that their kids are going to interact with these people, like whether they like it or not. And I don't know. It's just a form of control that kind of gives me the ick.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a very old-fashioned, very conservative mindset that has now been, codified by the Supreme Court. So, the way that our civics work, because this is now a Supreme Court decision, any school, any parent who wants their school district to have an opt-out option that's now completely legal.
Which is nuts to me, considering that there are public schools in the South that make their kids do prayers. And I'm like, what happened to religious freedom? Okay, that doesn't mean you can enforce your religion onto other people. And I think that's what parents think this is. It's oh, don't enforce your gay ideology to my children. But it's it's not so much ideology. It's just, hey, these people exist and they've always existed. Justice Alito critiqued several of the books that were at issue in the case. About Uncle Bobby's Wedding, he wrote, "It is significant that this book does not simply refer to same-sex marriage as an existing practice. Instead, it presents acceptance of same-sex marriage as a perspective that should be celebrated." And I'm like, wow. So you just want queer people to feel ashamed and that people should feel like it's wrong to want same-sex marriage. That's great for people who have parents who are in same-sex marriages.
I think the fact that that is kind of their full-throated stance on this, it feels like, for us, it feels like they're completely out of touch with the world we want to live in and the world that we exist in. But it's frightening to think that there's a good, if not majority, very vocal, very significant minority of people who also believe this, right? And it's just again, I don't want to dwell on this this for too long because we can be stuck here forever. But it's just significant as the first step to full on book bans, right? Opt out is kind of a euphemism for full on exclusion. And it's
I think Justice Sonia Sotomayor said it best in her dissent. She said that public schools offer to children of all faiths and backgrounds an education and an opportunity to practice living in our multicultural society. That experience is critical to our nation's civic vitality, yet it will become a mere memory if children must be insulated from exposure to ideas and concepts that may conflict with their parents' religious beliefs. And it's like, yeah, we live in a society, okay?
Yeah.
You can't just insulate your children from 90% of the world, okay?
And it just feels like we're entering a phase where there's going to be like two separate, like there's already like different people already live in different worlds, right? Certain people live in worlds where they only think about other cultures, where they can, not to go back to our last story, but write books outside of their culture without any sense of wanting to do so authentically, right? And it's just such a, conservatism is it's a belief, it's a mindset that things are fine as it is, right? We shouldn't change too much. And I feel like it's just, as I get older, the more I kind of see things that like probably should change and definitely should change. But it's just, I think people just don't like change. And like, even like religious beliefs, like those can change, right? As the world changes, and just there's so much resistance. And, I want to say that in the end, equality, egalitarian beliefs will win out. But I don't know. Right now we're in like the dark middle chapter of a trilogy, and I don't know if this is a heroic story or a tragedy, right?
If you look at history, there's always going to be pushback to progress, right? So we're in that pushback era. I have faith that we will go back into enlightenment and like the renaissance of science, but it's just not now.
Yeah.
And like, this is reminding me of when I went to Catholic school, like from first grade to like third grade, and how there was like this huge argument with parents saying they don't want their kids to learn about evolution because that goes against the Bible. And it's like, what? Like that's science, okay? You might not believe in evolution, but your kids deserve to at least know that this is, what is being taught in like the world as like fact. So yeah, you can't shield your children from everything. You can't control who they're gonna grow up into, because your children might grow up to be queer people. There's a very high chance of that. So this is not a great ruling. It sets a dangerous precedence.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I know people are still like people in like We Need Diverse Books, and also like teachers and librarians. They're putting up a really good fight. It's just unfortunate that the people in the highest judicial power are making it hard.
I mean, school boards are already pretty cowardly when it comes to standing up against conservative parents, and this gives them even less of a reason to fight. So it basically, the fight has just become way, way harder, especially for people who live in, like conservative parts of the country. So
yeah. So we're going to move on to our last piece of news. This is something that has been happening since March, but recently it's just like kicked up into overgear. So China has been doing a crackdown on women who write gay erotica or boys love or danmei. And so the Chinese police in Anhui and Gansu provinces, they detained at least 30 women authors in the genre of gay erotica, and authorities have accused them of producing and disseminating obscene content for profit. Now, this is a law that was passed in like 2004 in China, and some of these writers have been fined heavily or sentenced even to prison. Back in 2018, there was a very famous women boys love writer under the name Tian Yi, and she was sentenced to 10 and a half years in prison for selling 7,000 copies of her book, Occupy. And there's also been another famous author who was recently jailed for 4.5 years for earning 1.8 million won, which is $250,000 USD through her writing. And the 30 women who were arrested recently, they were all women. Nearly all of them were women in their 20s who had earned 27K to 56K USD from their writing. And when they were arrested, they were fined twice as much as they had earned. So pretty much bankrupting them. And, you know, this has led to a heated debate online about creative freedom and the government's efforts to police morality. Netizens were protesting, saying that some boys' love authors are facing harsher sentences than rapists and murderers. And the fact that there have been so many Danmei works that have been like optioned for film and TV adaptations and have like sold for millions of dollars. Like they think it's very hypocritical for the government to punish authors who write boys' love. So yeah, that's been happening. A different form of censorship, which, you know, is kind of scary to think about happening in America, because I can totally see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily an American story, right, or Asian American story, but it is in conversation with the last story with our Supreme Court, with the Supreme Court decision, because, you know, this is the type of censorship that I'm sure a lot of conservative, like, parent action groups are looking at this and saying, how do we do that here, right?
I mean, like, we've already seen creative writing sites get censored from conservatives, like fanfiction.net. They don't allow you to write stories with sex scenes in it, and that used to not be the case. And, you know, like, there's Wattpad, which is, you know, like, primarily used for fanfiction, but there's a lot of original works published on there, and Wattpad does have their own publication house. And, you know, this is kind of like the equivalent of, like, Wattpad, you know, shutting down authors who are writing about gay people. And I
mean, not just shutting down, but like, reporting them to the cops.
Yeah,
right?
Reporting them to the cops and also robbing them of their earnings, which is insane to me. And, like, the real dangerous part about the whole, like, crackdown is that most of the authors that were arrested, they wrote on Taiwan's publishing platform called Haitang Literature City. And because it's in Taiwan, there's that loophole of being able to publish these works, especially if you're able to kind of like self-censor and put your works under different subgenres. But they've been reported, even though they've been using a Taiwanese platform with a VPN. So that's a little bit concerning. So yeah, it's just like really unfortunate, because boys' love is a genre that is mainly enjoyed by women, written by women, and they're being punished for it. So not great. Not great. But you guys can see the parallel, right? Between, you know, the Supreme Court saying we don't want gay, we'll let parents opt out of their kids learning about gay people, and then China also being like, hey, we don't want gay literature online. So parallels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if the parent action groups here could criminalize people who write LGBT literature, they totally would, right?
There's a difference between people from marginalized group, quote unquote gatekeeping, and then the actual government gatekeeping.
Yeah, so I guess we'll end our episode with that kind of bummer view of the world. I guess, how do we?
It's so hard to even, like, most of my news is going to be bummers. That's just the way the world is right now.
All right. Well, on that note, then, that'll do it for this mid-month. That'll do it for our July mid-month book news check-in. Thank you so much for listening. Before we go, Rira, can you remind us what book we are reading this month for book club?
Yeah, so we are reading Pingsu for Two by Sujin Witherspoon.
Yeah, this month was a patron's choice. We had asked our Patreon supporters to help us pick a fun summer read. And so this is a enemies to lovers rom-com featuring just the most messiest protagonist you've ever read. So as always, we are doing a read-along on our Discord. So if you're a Patreon supporter, be sure to read along with us. And for those of you not on our Patreon, you can also let us know your thoughts on the book on our Goodreads forums. As always, we like to include your feedback in our book club discussions whenever possible. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Books and Boba. This podcast was hosted by Marvin Yue and Rira Yu and edited and produced by Marvin Yue. Follow the book club on Twitter and Instagram by going to @BooksandBoba and engage with us on Goodreads on our Goodreads group. You can also check out past episodes of the podcast by going to booksandboba.com and by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget, you can support Books and Boba and Asian American authors by purchasing books at our bookshop.org account. Check out the link in our show notes and also at booksandboba.com. Books and Boba is a proud member of the Potluck Podcast Collective, a collective of Asian American hosted podcasts featuring unique voices and stories from the Asian diaspora. Learn more about the collective and check out our fellow Potluck shows by visiting the website podcastpotluck.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey, I'm Phil Yu, and you may know me from a blog called Angry Asian Man.
And I'm Jeff Yang, author, journalist, and celebrity dad.
We host a podcast called They Call Us Bruce, an unfiltered conversation about what's happening in Asian America.
Each week or so, we host a discussion about some of the most vital and interesting topics in our pop culture and our community, bringing in guests who are shaping and informing this thing called Asian America from Hollywood to DC and beyond.
We got media, entertainment, food, family, politics, representation.
The good, the bad, the WTF of it all.
So check us out wherever you get your podcasts or at theycallusbruce.com.
Peace.
Peace.